17, we'll be talking about planning and zoning.
To begin with, the zoning laws that we've created today are supposed to protect the public. Zoning is a police power, and it's supposed to prevent the intrusion of undesirable uses in certain areas. Currently, the cities throughout the state of Florida are all zoned, and now all the counties are zoned. In 1985, the state of Florida developed the Growth Management Act, and as part of the Growth Management Act was one of the rules in it was called concurrency. What concurrency is and what concurrency means is that anytime a developer comes in to develop a new project, that infrastructure has to be planned into it. And when I say infrastructure, what I mean is sewer, water, electrical, all the things that are part of a new development that we typically don't see. The big one, honestly, is going to be our sewer capacity and making sure sewer lines are put in right. So concurrency is an important part. Concurrency has to be part of any new development plan. As far as the authority of the Planning Commission that every county has, the Planning Commission is in charge of subdivision plat approval, site plan approval, and believe this or not, sign control as well. Now, as far as subdivision plat approval, anytime the developer wants to come in and develop a subdivision, they've got to go to the Planning Commission and get permission for that. Now, the Planning Commission is made up of a cross-section of the entire community. They are not professionals in planning, but what they do have is a support staff that helps them make these decisions. The Planning Commission simply are advisors to our local city council and county commissioners. Regarding zoning, land use restrictions, and building codes, there are several types of zoning that we need to take a look at. To begin with, residential zoning. Residential zoning is based on density. And when I say density, what I mean is how many units per acre are you allowed to be able to use on a particular site. Commercial and industrial zoning, on the other hand, is based on intensity. And that is to say the degree of use. Traffic count plays a big role in that. Building codes and certificates of occupancy are all part of the building process. And just remember that you're not going to be able to get a certificate of occupancy to move in until a building is substantially complete. It doesn't have to be fully complete, but it does have to be substantially complete. Now, not all zoning appears to be the right zoning for everybody. And if you want to appeal your current zoning, you certainly have that right. And there are two types of methods that you can use, and you really need to be familiar with these two methods. One is a special exception and the other is variance. So let's do the variance first. The variance is where the zoning is right, the zoning is proper, but there's something within the zoning ordinance that won't allow you to do what you want to do. Typically speaking, it might be setback requirements or something of that nature. I remember that I sold a commercial piece of property to a gentleman, and the lot size was 100 feet on the road. Well, his buildings were 100 feet on a footprint, which meant that we had to go lot line to lot line. Well, the zoning said that we had to have 10-foot setbacks on either side. We went to the zoning board and said we need to have a little relief. They gave us 5 feet on each side, went back to the drawing board, and we were able to make it work. A special exception, on the other hand, is where you're going outside of your current zoning. You're asking for a use that the zoning currently does not permit. In other words, if you're in some type of residential zoning and you'd like to put a Dairy Queen or some other type of facility that's not zoned for, chances are if you try to go and get a commercial zoning, you're going to go contrary to the comprehensive plan, you're not going to get it. But if you ask for a special exception, say there's a particular thing that I want to do and I won't use it for anything other than this particular thing, there's a good chance that they're going to allow you to do that. That's called a special exception. Now, something that is a non-conforming use, this is something that has been grandfathered in. Regarding a planned unit development or a PUD, A planned unit development is where we have a lot of uses. We have residential, we have multifamily, we have commercial, we have a lot of areas that are common area. It's a self-contained community. Regarding subdivision calculations, you're probably going to have to do some of these calculations in the math section, and we'll go over that a little later on when we hit the math section. Regarding flood insurance programs, just remember that there are certain areas of Florida that are flood prone. As a matter of fact, 40% of all the flood insurance purchased in the country is right here in Florida. So you need to be aware of the flood areas and the flood zones in Florida. So what I want to do now is to review that particular section with you to make sure we have an understanding of it. First of all, the Planning Commission is appointed by the government leaders and made up of ordinary citizens. They do, however, have a professional staff that they work with. Residential zoning is based on density. Commercial zoning is based on intensity. A variance is a relief in zoning. In other words, it's zoned properly, you just need some relief. A special exception is really new zoning for a specific and special use. A planned unit development, or a PUD, incorporates commercial, residential, and other mixed uses. The certificate of occupancy is when a property is substantially complete.
And this is the end of this chapter's review.